Hello there, thrill seekers. And today's Monday Moldy Oldie is an extra old oldie. It is from the year 2006, and it is a talk I did at Hastings College in, I think, Hastings, Nebraska, about my book Hardcore Zen. They wanted me to come and talk about Hardcore Zen there. And so I did, and I excerpted the bits where I talked about how I got into punk rock and my feelings about the relationship between punk rock and Zen. And I hope you enjoy it. The date on the disc is October 25th, 2006. So this is really old. This is the oldest one I've found so far, although I do think there might be an even older one somewhere. I'm going to keep digging. It was from a symposium I did, the ALS, I don't know what that stands for, Student Symposium on Truth. And I was billed as Brad Warner, Zen Buddhist priest. And here I am talking about the truth of the relationship between punk rock and Zen. So I got really interested in this new wave, this punk rock thing that was happening. And I got some friends together, and we formed our own band, our own punk rock band called Max. It was a stupid punk rock band. And we played a couple of, we played like nerdy things. We did like the speech and debate team dance, which if you can imagine anything nerdier than the speech and debate team dance in Wadsworth, Ohio in 1981, I don't think you can get much deeper nerd than that. But you know, we did these gigs, and at this time, Akron was just getting over being a place that had tremendous buzz about it. I don't know, maybe this is even out of date, but Seattle, when Nirvana came out, you know, everybody descended on Seattle trying to find the next Nirvana. Well, what had happened after Devo became popular is all these people had descended on Akron trying to find the next Devo and the next Pretenders, you know, all these bands, and thinking it was this hot scene, and really wasn't. So we got in on the kind of tail end on this as this was kind of dying out, and we got a gig at the Bank, which was like the big club in Akron, where these bands had been discovered and signed. But by the time we got there, you know, nobody wanted to know. And anyway, we had to cancel the gig because our drummer's parents wouldn't let him play. So it was pretty awful. He was young. He was like 15, and we were like 17. So we shouldn't have been playing either. But about that same time, right after this band had broken up, I went. A friend of mine took me out to the Bank again, to this nightclub, to see a band called Zero Defects, he called them, they were hardcore punk. You know, I knew about punk, but I didn't know about this hardcore punk, and so he was going to take me out to see hardcore punk. And I went and saw this band Zero Defects, and it was the most. I saw them, and there was like 5 bands on the bill, and most of the bands played recognizable songs. They were a bit faster, and I liked them. They were cool. But when Zero Defects came on, what they played was just like absolute noise. You couldn't distinguish one song from another, and they all seemed to be over in like 10 seconds, and it was like, wah! You know, finish, and then the next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, wah! Finish. And I just was like astounded by this. I was amazed. I'm sitting there going, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, that's like, because it was so completely over the top, and I'd never seen anything like this before. And I found out a little bit later, maybe a couple months after this, I'm not sure, that Zero Defects' bass player had quit, and they were looking for a new bass player. And they put an ad in the paper, in the local music paper called The Scene. So I answered the ad because I was like, I got to join this band. I played guitar before, but you can play bass if you can play guitar. So I went down and I visited this house, and it was like the crummiest house I'd ever seen in my life. It was in this bad part of town. It was falling down, and all these punk rockers shared this house. You know, the rent was probably really cheap to begin with, and then they were all living together. You know, so probably each person paid like $50 a month or less or something to rent this place. And it was the most horrible place I'd ever seen. there's like records all over the floor and cigarette butts, and there was like there was two people. I remember when I walked into the house, there's two people making out on the couch, and they're both had shaved heads. And I'm like, wow, it took me a while to figure out one of them was a girl, So I'd never seen anything like that, and they led me down to the basement and gave me the bass that belonged to their previous bass player, and it was plugged into this amp, and you plugged this in, and everything sounded like buffalo farts. It was terrible. The amp was like shredded, and I started warming up. I started just kind of playing a scale or something to warm up, and the singer kind of looks at me and goes, "Oh, a musician." But they kind of showed me their songs, and I was like the next big shock was that the songs actually had some kind of structure to them, because when I'd seen them, it just sounded like they were just going, "Wah!" But they actually had set chords and bits and sort of a verse and chorus structure and stuff. And I learned it. I learned their set in a day, and I was in. I became their bass player, and I was like, "Wow, cool." And usually when I tell this story, I don't. They told me they were going to have this whole visual system up that I could use, so I brought some video of this, and I like Katie said when she introduced me, I've been working on this movie about that scene, and in working on it, I came across or found somebody who had videotaped us, and this was like 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. And I didn't remember ever being videotaped. And this woman who lives in Michigan now, she had all these beta tapes. She'd come down and videoed the shows. And I actually have some, so I thought I would just show you, just to give you the actual demonstration of what Zero Defects was like. Oops, why isn't it opening? Uh-oh. Oh, no! Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Okay, this is technology for you. So this is later. This is by the time I joined the band, and this is but you can't really see me in this video. It's "Drop the A-Bomb on Me" is the song. So don't blink or you'll miss it. The A-Bomb on me! That's the song. Yeah. Yeah. So you can see, and I saw that, and I was just like, wow, I gotta get in on this. I mean, you see it today, and it looks kind of almost normal, I suppose. I don't know, but at the time, nobody was doing anything like that, especially in Akron. It was just kind of incredible.
Do you see a link between the Zen Buddhist stuff and the punk rock stuff, or is it just something you bounce back and forth?
No, I do actually. I do think there's a link, and that link is sort of related to truth. And this is kind of I should rehearse these speeches more when I do them, because I was going to make a point out of that. So I'm glad you asked. To me, what attracted me about punk was the same thing that attracted me about Zen. Was that it was true. It was rock music that was more truthful and real than what I saw in the sort of popular music of the day that was very plastic and very manufactured and didn't really reflect anybody's real life or real situation. So yeah. But what I also feel is like the punk rock people never took their own philosophy far enough. I kind of feel like if you take punk philosophy all the way to the end, what you end up with is something like Zen. That's my personal opinion. Because you're just like getting rid of all the, BS. You're just trying to find what's really actual. And that's sort of, it seems like the same path to me.
I was intrigued by your comment about punk and Zen perhaps leading to the same place. Punk, it seems, is focused on the reality of raw emotion.
Yeah.
Zen, when I think of Zen, I think, reflection, calmness. Mm-hmm. Could you spin that out a little bit more for us?
Yeah, I agree there. And I think that's one of the things about not taking their own philosophy as far as it can go. a lot of punk is about emotion. But what I saw in it, my own personal sort of experience wasn't so emotional. I just thought we were angry about these issues, but we wanted to do something about it, and what we did about it was go, ah, and make a noise. Zen is different. It's very quiet and reflective, and so in that way, there is a big difference. But what I also notice is when you're doing some activity like playing music, you are forced to be in that moment. One of the reasons things like sports and playing music and these kind of activities that we get really excited about, one of the reasons they're so popular and interesting to us is because when you are listening, or especially when you're playing music, you are kind of forced to be there. I went to a Kiss concert recently because I love Kiss, and I just kind of was struck by it because there's all this lights and sounds, and it's very loud and it's very bright, and there's explosions going on all over the place, and there's guys spitting blood and breathing fire and all this stuff. And what that does is that atmosphere forces you to be somewhere where you can't really look away or get away from it, or you don't really want to get away because it's so interesting. And a lot of those activities are very similar to what you get in Buddhist practice. Only what you get in Buddhist practice is you are trying to kind of remain in that moment without any distractions or any entertainment, which is a kind of a completely different thing ultimately. But it's sort of based on the same idea of just not straying from where you are. And so that's where I see a real connection. But of course, in the area of emotions, Zen is sort of about, calming down your emotions, or at least letting them subside when they arise. You have to kind of go, okay, I'm pissed off, but let it, knowing that it'll go away if you don't feed into it. And that's one of the kind of key points. That's probably different. I don't say that they're exactly the same thing, but I kind of see it as a continuation, at least in my life. What a gesture. I did that gesture. Isn't that good?